What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Gooner channel. Going into last night's match against West Ham at home, we were undefeated in 17 London derbies. We were undefeated at home. A win would have put us top of the table, and then we got that performance. And it's a performance that reminds me so much of other performances. I'm thinking of Everton last year. I'm thinking of Southampton and Bournemouth. Some of those games we got out of jail. But then we turned up and played like that against Brighton at the very death, and that was what finally handed Manchester City the title. And that was where a lot of this talk of bottling comes from. It wasn't just the Liverpool coming back and getting a draw against us. It wasn't just West Ham coming back and getting a draw against us, but it was this feeling that at the key moments we just lacked the something. I'm not even sure what it is. That said, even with the players really sluggish, how did we lose that match? I've watched it back again since, and I think that many players having an off day, it's hard to blame the team. You kind of have to look at the manager then. Obviously, you start thinking, did they have too much Christmas dinner? Did they relax too much? Maybe it was that they had too big a break. Maybe there was an element of complacency going into this match, but it certainly looked sluggish and tired. But even though that's the case, there were some performances there. Martin Odegaard did not deserve to be on a losing team at all. It was a rare game in which Declan Rice wasn't outstanding. He gave the ball away twice. I clipped it because I couldn't believe I'd seen it. Zinchenko will come in for a lot of stick on the defensive side. And look, let's be honest, that you cannot discuss this game without discussing VAR. But I want to stick to the basics. I just want to say, if that goal had been disallowed, maybe the game would have been completely different. I can absolutely understand how the person in the VAR room doesn't think he can 100% say the ball hasn't crossed the line. But you can't see any part of the ball on the line at all. It's only obscured by a thigh, which seems in line with the line. We're going to discuss these endlessly. It's just incredibly bad luck that it happens to us. I think that, you just don't see these as often as to get two in such a short space of time. Unbelievable. What can you say? To me, that looks like it's off. We had the whole farce of Gary Neville coming out with the ball and showing how, it might have still been on in the Newcastle game. But then we found out that Joe Willock, who was the player standing directly over it, thought it had gone off. And so that's attacked some credibility there. We probably aren't going to find out. I do just want to say, who's the player who should be able to see whether it's over the line or not? Alexander Zinchenko. He's standing behind the goal line looking at the ball. And he doesn't make any massive appeal. He doesn't shout for it. Now, it might be because he can't see it, but you'd think he would if he'd seen the ball go all the way over. And that lets me think that maybe it was just slightly touching the line. And in any case, we had our chances and just didn't score from them. It was another weak performance from Martinelli. Saka not quite firing, although he did do enough creatively, you would hope. Trossard in the middle just didn't work. But you can't go on about all these different players let you down. You have to look at Arteta. So my focus for this video is, at the end of last season, I thought Arteta had done brilliantly well. I was hugely impressed. I still am. I think the transformation in our team since he took over is fantastic. The big question is, can he get over that line? Can he take us to the promised land? Or is he going to just get us close every time? And I think that in order to get over that line, you have areas where you can improve as a manager. And I think Arteta's were last season. His rotation, his policy on rotating players was miles behind Pep Guardiola's, and it led to a fatigue at the end of the season, which, coupled with injuries, was hugely damaging to our title run-in. He didn't trust his bench enough. The substitutions, when they came, weren't impactful because they might come too late, or it might even be the wrong types of players. And finally, it was his integration of youth players into the squad. Now, they're all kind of tied in with each other. If you're rotating properly, then you have different players on the bench. Maybe you have some starting players on the bench you can bring on, and competition for places, all kinds of aspects to this. But the key one was players like Saka are overplayed. And this season isn't any different. him and Rice and Saliba are playing every minute, and this is going to potentially need to, and this is going to, at some point, you think they're going to need a bit of a rest, or their form could suffer. I know Arteta said in the past that top quality players should be able to play 38 games a season, but great if they can, but they shouldn't have to, you know? So rotation wasn't quite there. Bench last season almost put that down to the fact that he needed extra players, didn't trust the players he had. We've seen a lot of players go. We're hopeful that some will arrive in January, but at the moment, this is supposed to be a bigger squad. He's had some injuries, but he still doesn't seem to trust the bench. Emil Smith-Rowe came on very late, and I don't think that Trossard came off soon enough. Martinelli, I think it was really obvious at half-time, but I can forgive anyone for giving it another 15 minutes. But the squad isn't quite strong enough. His bench isn't quite strong enough. His rotational policy isn't quite daring enough. And where are the youngsters? We need to start blooding some youngsters. By now, I think that other teams are showing how that's done. Liverpool and Manchester City seem to have no problem bringing young players. Even Man United, Kobe Manu. I think you do have to trust them at 18, 19. Arteta's very conservative about his team selection. Maybe doesn't take enough risks. Put it this way. He's doing a fantastic job, but I hope he's learning some of the lessons. Sticking with players when they're not quite in form is a problem. If the problem is you don't have anyone behind them to come through, then you either need to promote some youth and hope that that works, or you need to go out and get some players. Reece Nelson came on yesterday, and we're asking an awful lot of a player who's played 90 minutes this season. It doesn't make sense to have someone on the bench like Reece Nelson and never get to start if he's not good enough. And Eddie Nketiah, I thought he was bright again, but more often than not right now he's playing chasing lost causes. And the talk now turns, of course, as it was always going to our need for a natural striker. I will do a tactical analysis of the Liverpool game, hard, but I think there are some lessons in there. So please stay tuned for that. Maybe hit subscribe if you haven't yet. Apart from that, I genuinely think we are behind Man City now in the race for the title. Things have got to swing again our favour. Of course, we still go to the Etihad, and we have a huge match coming up in the league against Liverpool where we can start to put some things right. But the disappointment of yesterday's match was that it just seems to happen to us. And why does it happen to us? I want to know. I want your thoughts on this in the comments. We march on to Fulham, and I had the Fulham game down as a difficult one, not the West Ham one. So I initially only predicted a draw for us there. Hopefully we can gain back some points that we lost to West Ham. Hugely disappointing evening. Thoroughly disappointing. Always a terrible feeling when you see pictures of fans streaming out of the Emirates before full time to a defeat. Yeah, hopefully not something that we're going to see at the Emirates again this season. And of course, there is the FA Cup and the Champions League. There is much to play for this season. I think that the game yesterday might have had a bearing on that FA Cup team. Would the FA Cup be enough for most of the Arsenal fans? I think it would be enough for me. I want a good run in the Champions League. Let's distract ourselves with a great run in the Champions League and see how we go. And who knows? I will be doing a broadcast every single day during January transfer window so we can catch up together on who the latest ins and outs of that January transfer window are. Much speculation already. Of course, Ivan Toney has been talked about pretty much, well, since September, I think. And that may or may not happen. We will see, although today's news is that it's less likely. Anyway, that's been enough from me. Thank you so much for watching to this point. And why not try the video coming up right after it? Anyway, lots of love. Be lucky.